All right, everybody, it's our international break episode, a 3-point tie for New York City at Nashville. We're going to break down some of that and multiple New York City players representing their countries during this international break. So we'll review that as well. All coming up on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, welcome. I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. He is in Mexico. I am in Nueva Jersey. And, you know, this is the way it works with our Views Live. Wherever we're at, we see if we can get it done. Roberto, what's happening? I hope you're enjoying your time away.
I am. It's been really, really great to be here. It took, it's a full day to get to Acapulco. It's really not easy from New York. So you take a 9:30 flight out of JFK. You land at about 1 o'clock. Now, there's a 2-hour difference between Mexico City and New York City. So you land at 1 o'clock, breeze through immigration and customs. I mean, we were out in about 25 minutes. But the next flight wasn't until 5 o'clock. So we had lunch at a very nice restaurant that's in the airport that's called La Mansión, my son and I, Eddie and I. And then, we had to wait like another 3 hours to get on the plane to Acapulco, which is a 35-minute flight. So we left my apartment at 7 o'clock in the morning and got to my sister's apartment at 7 o'clock at night. So it was a 12-hour day to get to Acapulco.
All right. Well worth the journey, I am sure. Here in New Jersey,
if Shane has the video, I can tell you how it looks so far. There we go.
Ah, very nice. Oh, I love the peninsula out there. What is that going on where it comes out? What is that? Where is that?
So we're in the bay. We're in an area that's called Magallanes, which is basically the center of Acapulco. And so we're right in the middle of the bay, right in the center of the bay. It's fantastic.
Very cool. Well, it took me 30 seconds to walk from upstairs down to my basement. You're 12 hours. Well, I was 30 seconds, but we're here. So we have this New York City thing. Well, we're going to go over some of these internationals. There's 8 players who are representing their countries. Little did we know that we had a representative of Sri Lanka, but that's a little bit later on. We'll get to that in a moment because coming into this break, Roberto, Nick Cushing, I hope he's patented this, but it was a 3-point tie for New York City, down 2-0.
Yeah.
They come back and score twice, including a late goal. Hannes Wolf with both goals. Sam Surge had the first 2 for Nashville. And there you have it. Now, this is the contrasting part of this game versus that midweek debacle against Houston, which was, really a shame, the 3-0 loss at home.
Yeah.
We wondered, I would imagine you would have too, along with Ariel, but Maddie and I wondered if at the Houston game, if Pascal would make, Pascal Janssen, the manager, would make any changes at halftime. Would there be personnel changes? And it turns out he waited till the hour mark, didn't make any changes, waited to the hour mark, and then made that 4-player substitution. And it really didn't have much of an impact in the game. Now against Nashville, down 2-0 at the half, boom, 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 boom. Keaton Parks and surprise, Strahinja Tanasiewicz come in. Tanasiewicz for Gray. Keaton Parks came in for Aiden O'Neill, who really wasn't impactful, and he was getting ready to go to Australia to compete internationally. But it turned out to be a good move. The second half was a lot better.
Oh, my goodness. And if Keaton Parks has now shown his value in game, I don't know if more in games that he didn't play or the games that he did because of what he can do. New York City needs Keaton Parks on the field. There's just no doubt about it. And his contribution has been invaluable. And I would say that maybe after Alonso Martinez was the leading scorer on the team, and in and around what Mike Freese has done in goal, Keaton Parks is right up there as far as the most important players for New York City. Without him on the field, the offense just stagnates. Yeah. And they really, there's a lot of times where the team caresses ideas, and you look at this and the way he plays and what he can do, and then you get in, and then it's all of a sudden you see, wow, okay, this is what the guy can do. And it's great.
Let's play this. This was before the game, during my pregame briefing with Pascal, and I brought up Keaton Parks because he had to leave. He came in the Houston game in the 74th minute and almost immediately felt pain in his foot. He was limping around, and he made it through the rest of the match. But he's had issues with it, obviously. And so I wanted to see what Pascal thought about this foot injury, and we understand the importance of Keaton Parks. So here's what he said.
Well, the concern has been there for a while because the complaints within the foot are very inconsistent and sometimes very consistent. So it's kind of a mystery what's going on. So I know the medical team is working day and night in order to help Keats and improve the problems that he has. But it also holds him back from training properly and being available for the games as much as he can. But the good thing is he's on the roster for tomorrow, so he's with us, and hopefully the foot doesn't give him any issues going into this game, and he can have some play time again.
Well, it did work out that way. He came in the entire second half, assisted on both goals, and was a critical part about that. But the thing that really stood out to me in that, and I put it in there sort of on the frame, is that that the injury is a mystery. And so, Roberto, mystery is, I don't think is a good word when you're dealing with injuries.
No.
And part of the mystery,
you want to know what's going on.
Well, part of the mystery is what you do with these sorts of injuries. And I talked to Matty about this, and he had all kinds of things. You get shots, whether it's cortisone, it's legal. Players get shot up before games. Luis Suarez gets his knee shot up probably before every game, or if it's cortisone, maybe he could only get 3 or 4 during the course of the year. Depends on what the medication is. So I think that might be part of the mystery, is that they're not understanding why sometimes it doesn't respond. But all cool in this one. So so New York City's down 2-0, and we know Parks is in the middle of it. We're going to hear first the Spanish commentary, and then, well, we're saving the best for last. Then it'll be the English commentary of the opening goal by Hannes Wolf. So first Spanish and then English. Go ahead, Shane.
Aquí viene Wolf. Wolf para Parks. Para Morales. Otra vez Parks. La tiene Wolf. Tira. ¡Gol! Gran combinación de New York City. Hannes Wolf mete su quinto. Keaton Parks con asistencia. New York City mete su primer gol en Gores Park. Estamos 2-1. Revive New York City.
Y el número 55, Keaton Parks, tiene ese producto para desatascar cañerías. Entró con ese producto Parks para hacer más fácil el juego de New York City. Y vaya que sí lo consiguió rápidamente. Gracias a él, en gran medida, el equipo está... New York City está 2-1 ahora. El partido está abierto y el partido tiene opciones para el conjunto celeste.
That's right, 2-1. Now let's go to the English.
Martinez now fairly deep into the attacking third, and now some good combinations, and that leaves Parks in the area, and here's a goal. Cutting the deficit in half is Hannes Wolf. And New York City, very good sequence, and it started with Thiago Martins getting to within 30 yards of the goal. He was involved in what were 5 players combining very quickly, and eventually the ball got him behind, and Hannes Wolf, from about 12 yards out, maybe even less, finishes for New York City.
Well, it's a goal that came out of absolutely nothing. Keaton Parks gets the ball. He's closed down by Nahar, but it just breaks so nicely into the path of Wolf. And credit Hannes Wolf, because it's a cool, calm, collected finish with the inside of that right foot. He just sweeps it home, passes it into the back of the net, if you will, off of that far post. Nothing Joe Willis can do about it. Game on, Glenn. They're back in the game, New York City FC.
That they were to make it 2-1, and then it was nothing had really happened before that, and then all of a sudden all these players get involved in getting in behind, and in my commentary I kept it a little low key.
Yes.
No, but that was the moment, Roberto. I don't think it was a moment to go crazy on the goal call, because look, he just went, got the ball. Did you see any celebration from New York City? Not a moment, because now it's 2-1. You get the ball back, and that's the way I let my commentary roll on that one. So I've just
it's interesting, because I felt differently, and maybe if the players just wanted to do that, I fully get that and I understand that. But to me, it absolutely revived the team. And as Maddie said, a goal that came basically out of nowhere. It was their best combination play. And see, this is what we've been talking about all year long, of where New York City has failed in scoring goals. It's in the precision and the quickness of their passes. And this time it all clicked. They had 5 passes in a row, right weight, right speed, right place. And Hannes Wolf winds up finishing off a really nice little touch by Keaton Parks. This is what the team needs to do. And this is what they have not been doing. And, and the fact that Alonso Martinez isn't on the end of this is important. But to me, it was a moment that built. And to me, I guess I definitely got more excited than you did. And but that's the way I felt that goal. I don't exaggerate goals or anything. No. I just call them the way I feel them, and that's the way I felt it.
Well, that's what you do. You call the way you felt. I felt like, okay, got one back. Here we go. Grab the ball. To me, the call was get the ball, get back to midfield, and let's get another one. Which
I thought for a second that Nashville had hired you and that you were doing their play-by-play.
I thought I think my call handled the mood better. That's my opinion. So anyway,
fine. We have a lot of people here who are chiming in, and we'd like to know what they think. This is now a competition, so you guys are going to vote. We want you all voting.
All right, go ahead and vote.
Voten por mí. Gracias. I'm sorry. No, I just said you did a wonderful job in Spanish. I know you knew that.
Okay. Let's see. So now it's 2-1. All right, boom, things are going well. But the moment of the match is right here. So let's just get to the call. It'll just be my call. And it's Matt Freese making the save, and then Roberto will do some post commentary on this, because this caused quite a ruckus in the Nashville supporters group. But anyway, here's the play of the game, really, because it prevented Nashville from going up 3-1.
Zimmerman stepped right in front of Alonso Martinez to head it back into the city end. And now Muil finds Surridge. Surridge cuts to the middle. Can he get the hat trick? No, it's off the post. But the follow save by Freese. Matt Freese. After the ball hit the post, he had to go from one side of the goal to the other, and he reacted just in time.
Brilliant from Matt Freese, but the more you look at it, the more it looks as though the goal, it should be a goal. I think that crosses the line. I think the whole of the ball crosses the whole of the line. We'll take another look. I assume the VAR is looking at it as well. It's very, very hard to tell. I haven't seen it in slow motion, but whatever it is, credit Matt Freese for the fast feet, doing what he practices in training every day, getting across the goal and clawing it from behind the line, or maybe just in front of the line.
So, yeah, you could say it looks like it's over the line, but did we see a proper angle? The one thing I want to say before we continue on this, Roberto, is that there is someone who I trust who came back with this, and this is a quote. There were good enough angles showing it was a goal. Now, this is not just from some schmuck. This is from somebody who apparently saw angles maybe that we didn't, because I have to say that all the angles we've seen, the freeze frame on the screenshot, the video that Ben Wright shared, none of it was conclusive in terms of was the ball completely over the line.
100%. And now, if they have other video, so what the heck were they looking at? Who was the VAR? Was it Jorge Gonzalez?
It was Jorge. Oh boy, I don't know. It was Soren Stoica. Soren Stoica was the VAR
on this one. Okay,
yeah, I think so.
So they get all the camera angles. Okay, they get all the camera angles, and they can look at different camera angles and It's very different from what they show us on TV. On TV, we're at the mercy of the producer and what they want to show us. But also, they did show us the VCR. They did show us the VAR angles, right? Apple TV showed what they were.
He didn't go to the monitor.
He never went to the monitor.
So he didn't go to the monitor. Yeah, no monitor.
So whoever was in charge of VAR at the moment, I'm going to go look this up now because I should, and because it's important. In charge of VAR was Soren Stoika, assisted by Mike Kampminer. Okay, those are the guys that were in charge.
And John Freeman was the referee. So it's
so they have a multitude of angles that they can review at Arlington, Texas, which is where VAR is now located for MLS. And they go through all the angles that they find to be important to the play. And based on what they saw, they did not see anything that was 100% conclusive that the call on the field was wrong, to the point of where they didn't even ask John Freeman to go to the monitor and take a look, right? If they feel that there's a possibility that it might be over and he wants to look at it, then they'll say, hey, come to the monitor and let's talk about it. And here's what we have. And then, you make up your mind. But basically, they saw all the replay angles that they had available to them, or the ones that they wanted to look at.
Okay, we got that.
Don't know if they looked at.
I understand.
And they decided there's nothing here that's conclusive that the call on the field is wrong.
Okay.
And that's what they went with. And that was that. So based on that, good call. I mean, based on the replays that we saw, we can't tell if there's a mistake.
Well, I'm not disclosing who told me that quote. They were good enough angles showing it was a goal. So I'm just wondering. I would love to see more angles, and I will not get a hold of this in order and be able to share publicly, but I am going to try to get a hold of whatever angles are being described to me here that say it was a goal. Because look, it's a massive play, and it just puts to mind goal line technology. Or as Jim Curtin put it last year, Jim Curtin said, "Can't you go to Radio Shack?" Well, it wasn't Radio Shack. I don't know. Can't you go to the Apple Store and buy two little cameras to put on either side of one goal, and then two more to put on either side of the other goal for about what, a couple of $100? And can't you use that and maybe make it a little better? And then
they can, but
Corey Clayton,
it's terrible.
Corey Clayton, who follows us, said something about putting it on like the crossbar, so it's pointing down. The
NHL has basically on the post, on the crossbar, and behind the net. And, we should have that. If the NHL can have it, MLS can have it.
I don't get it.
Or you can use, even better, just use goal line technology like they have in England. Put a little damn chip in the ball. And what do you call it? And if the whole ball goes over the whole line, it beeps. And that's it. It's nothing to look at. Nothing to look at.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that MLS doesn't have that, especially if they're not going to be putting cameras near the goal line. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's apparently not cost effective, or the cost is a factor in MLS not having it. They've said that in the past, so I don't know what's going to happen between now and next year.
Suck it up. I'm sorry. Suck it up. Get it right.
Okay, but
get it right. They're billionaires.
I don't disagree, but for $200 for every stadium, get little cameras and put them along the line. Just do that. Why is that so difficult?
Right thing. You don't have to be cheap. You don't have to go for the cheapest option. Go for the best option, and the best option is goal line technology. This freaking league can afford it.
All right.
I'm sorry, they can afford it.
I didn't say they couldn't.
Hey, get the right thing, and don't go for the cheapest thing that maybe works.
What they should do is get a portion of the Club World Cup money from all the teams, take it away from the players, and put it into goal line technology. We'll get to that.
Did you ever want to travel to another stadium again? Do you want the players to be waiting for you?
It's a setup. It's a setup for the Seattle Sounders that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the show.
I know, but
well, here, so Roberto, I'm going to get excited for you now. Here's the Hannes Wolf game winner on the New York City FC network.
Oh. Miscommunication by Bauer, playing it back to Joe Willis. Willis stayed close to his goal. This goes out for a corner. So a difficult moment for Nashville. That's a bad mistake, especially if something happens here.
First corner of the game. 86 minutes in, first corner of the game for NYCFC.
And
Can they make it count?
Julian Fernandez. This will be an outswinger from Hernandez. Justin Hack, he's got his hands on his knees. He's looking for some positioning. Martinez is there. Hack goes to the front post side. It's headed high into the air. Now Parks, and now Wolf, and it's 2-2! New York City in the 87th minute off the corner! Keaton Parks looks over towards the supporters who are to our right. The technical staff to our right in the booth, pounding their fists in the air. Hannes Wolf with a brace to match Sam Surridge's brace, and it's 2-2.
They then almost celebrate here, NYCFC. Keaton Parks flicks it on, and then I think Hannes Wolf gets a little bit of stud on the ball to just move it through the legs of Joe Willis. You said, will this hurt Nashville? First corner of the game, given away by Nashville SC. They didn't need to concede that. And you talked about the reaction of the crowd as well, Glenn. It's deflated here. But now for NYCFC, you've got your point back. It's been a game of two halves. Now you've got to hold on. You've got a point. The least you can leave here with is a point.
That corner kick was awful. I had almost forgotten about that. The Bauer just sent it out of play. I mean, Joe Willis was nowhere near it. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, they didn't have to concede it, and that's why you don't concede those sort of corners, because it can come back and bite you in the butt. And that's exactly what it did to Nashville. And New York City, in their fourth trip to Nashville, finally get a point out of there. They only had one goal in 3 games that they had never scored in Guttis Park before this game.
And they get 2. Hannes Wolf gets 2. He's got a big 6 now. He's only 2 behind Alonso Martinez for the team lead, which is pretty amazing when you consider the slump he was in. Over 740 minutes without a goal at one point. But Alonso Martinez, I would say it's sort of a mini slump for him, even though, he converted the penalty in which game? One of the recent games to get his 8th
Chicago?
goal. Yeah, Chicago. A game where Bacrar and Fernandez scored. So 4 of the last 5 goals scored by New York City FC have not been Alonso Martinez. So I guess going into
it's important.
Yeah, I think that is important.
It's important, but none of them stepped up against Houston, right? So, and that game was just such a massive disappointment, for New York City. Yeah, it's not like Houston's some great team, and New York City just played terribly. But I love the reaction. That's one of the things that's really, really key of being able to have amnesia and then leave that game behind. Okay, screwed up. Didn't play well. We're not going to let that affect the next effort, although the first half you could think that maybe they did. But they came out in the second half and played a much, much better game. And you have a goalie who makes important saves, and that keeps you in the game. And then you react. And again, you got to give credit to the guys, be it Keaton Parks, be it Martinez, who worked tirelessly, and Montse Bacrar when he came in. Working tirelessly as well. You've got all these guys putting in an effort, and now you've got other guys rather than
no gold medal
scoring goals.
No extra points for effort, man. That's a given. I'm not giving points for effort. Okay, I'm not. But I will. There's a certain amount of the mentality on the road, in particular, bulletproof mentality. Remember, that's the first thing that Pascal said maybe in his first press conference, his goal and what they worked on in preseason, having a bulletproof mentality. He especially mentioned road games. Well, maybe this was an example there. Hey, Bacrar is going to get his chance, Roberto, because Alonso Martinez is with Costa Rica. He's got games on June the 7th and 10th, so that's coming up on the weekend, the first one, World Cup qualifiers. Then June 15th, 18th, and 22nd, the Gold Cup. And as that progresses, if Costa Rica were able to advance to the knockout round, it's June 28th or 29th. So what it all means is that Bacrar is going to get at least 2 games.
It can go even further, by the way. Because if they make the semifinal or the final, now we're talking July 2nd and July 6th.
Well, honestly, I'm assuming Costa Rica is not making the semifinals. I'm just going to say
I'm not making that assumption, by the
Well,
way.
I am.
I'm really not. So
Well, I'm just saying. I said at least is greater. Here's what the words at least mean, Roberto: greater than or equal to. So Montserrat Baccarat will get at least 2 games. All right, and it'll be June 12th against Atlanta, and then the June 28th game against. Why am I forgetting who we're playing on June 28th? Montreal, at Montreal.
Okay.
So those are the 2 games we figure Baccarat will get. We don't think Seymour Reed will get the games. It'll be Baccarat. I don't see any other option for
Baccarat will start and Seymour Reed will come off the bench.
Now let's get to Matt Freese. Did I share that photo of him with the national team? I don't know if I did, Shane. Yeah, there he is.
I've got his full schedule here. So
yeah,
I've got everybody's full schedule, by the way. So
well, first of all, before you give the free schedule, and this schedule also could be meaningful to New York City supporters who may want to see Freese, because Zach Steffen got sent back to Colorado. He injured himself already in training. He injured his knee. So I think he was banged up before he went there. I don't know the specifics of the injury he had with the Rapids, but Chris Armas said he's ready to go, send him away, and then he gets hurt. I mean, they've only been there a couple of days. What are they flying on? Sunday? I think Sunday or Monday.
Something like that. Something in the water in Chicago, I guess, or the air.
So now we would assume Matt Turner will get at least the first game or get a game, but could Matt Freese actually, get a game out of these friendlies, and then what happens at the Gold Cup? So what are the dates?
Okay, so for me, I mean, you look at this and you would think that Matt Turner is going to be the starter. Matt Freese is the first backup. Chris Brady is the second backup, and they call somebody else in. I'm trying to remember who. They just called somebody else in as well.
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see who they called in.
So the first game, well, they've got two friendlies against Turkey and Switzerland. One of them the first one is in Hartford, Connecticut. That's on June 7th. They play Switzerland in Nashville.
Yeah.
And then the Gold Cup starts, and they're far away from New York, in San Jose, in Austin, and in Dallas against Trinidad and Tobago, Saudi Arabia, which is not going to be a walkover, and Haiti. And then after that, quarterfinals. And if everything goes well, semifinal and final. So that is that. Alonso Martinez obviously gets to play against Suriname, Dominican Republic, and Mexico. That's going to be great. Costa Rica against Mexico, June 22nd in Las Vegas, baby. How cool is that?
That is very cool.
Looking forward to that game.
So here's the deal. We also know that Tomas Romero has gone with El Salvador. I don't know if we have his dates, but what that means is Greg Ranjit Singh is going to be in goal for New York City FC unless they go with a homegrown Alex Rando. So but you would think it's because he's been traveling with the team and he's been the guy who's been around mostly, Ranjit Singh.
And he's been on the bench and on the 20-man roster several times this year.
8 games with Toronto, 2 between 2022 and 3. He played 4 games with the first team at Toronto during a 3-year period. And his previous matches before that were 3 games with Minnesota in 2020, 2 with Orlando City in 2019. And he made his mark where he got really identified, Louisville City in the USL Championship between 2015 and 18. 31 years old. And let's face it, I mean, I haven't really noticed him in training because usually they'll go to 2 goals and he won't be in either one of the goals at that moment when we've been there anyway. So
yeah,
it's going to be pretty interesting that he gets tossed into the mix like this because he just hasn't had many games.
100%. And Tomás Romero's only had 1, and that was in the U.S. Open Cup where he played well, and there was nothing he could do to stop Pittsburgh's goal on that corner kick at the end of the game.
So kind of anxious to see if Mauricio Pochettino picks Matt Freese for any of these games.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. That would be fun. Aiden O'Neill. Now he just came with the team, but he had quite a journey to get back home to Australia, where they will play Japan tomorrow morning. Now, Roberto, I looked this up, and it says it's on Paramount Plus at 7:15 a.m. So Aiden's got 19 caps with them. I figure he will be in the 11, and they play Japan, and it's a huge game. If they beat Japan, then they're in pretty much certain territory to get the automatic selection in
Berth.
the Cup. Because if they have to finish top 2 in their group. If they finish 3rd or 4th, then they get into some sort of a playoff situation. I don't have all on that.
Right, and their second game is against Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. So, I mean, can you imagine how many miles he's putting on himself between getting to Australia and then going to Saudi Arabia and then having to fly back to New York?
Right. So he's not. That second game is Tuesday, June 2nd. So he will not be available for the June 12th home game against Atlanta. But then he would be.
Glenn, I'm sorry, you said June 2nd. It's June 10th.
No, I said June 7th for the first, June 5th for Thursday for Japan, and June 10th for Saudi Arabia. If I said the 7th,
right.
for you,
that's accurate.
June 7th is Alonso Martinez's first game, and I assume we'll be able to watch that somewhere too. I didn't look that up. Also, Patrick Yazbek is on this team. We just talked about him in the second half of the Nashville game. Nashville midfielder, also from Australia, which I knew, but I didn't know that they would be together in this until I looked at the roster and I went, oh yeah. And one final thing about this Australian team. I found this despicable, but I suppose it's natural these days. I'm looking up articles to read, and they call themselves the Socceroos. That's their nickname. They're the Socceroos. It's like the Jamaica's the Reggae Boys. So Australia's the Socceroos. Except that they are the Subway Socceroos, because their naming rights partner is Subway Sandwiches. So everywhere you look, they are the Subway Socceroos, and I don't like that. I think that's terrible, but whatever. The Subway Socceroos.
I know. I agree. Money. But you don't have to call them the Subway Socceroos. You could just say Socceroos.
Thank you.
That'll be fine. You could do that, or you want to, and you can then go to Jersey Mike's and get a sandwich and not feel bad about it.
Let's see.
Because I know you want to support everything Jersey. See,
Maximo Carrizo's away. He's with the U17 men's national team. They've got 3 matches. They're all friendlies. He's in Spain. They're going to play Sweden, Canada, Japan. Roberto. Drew Bayeras with the US U18s playing in something called the Friendship Tournament. France, Argentina, Australia. So,
wow.
Some good games there. Johnny Shores with the U19s. They are playing Spain and Ukraine in Spain. So this is some really cool stuff. Micha Ilinic is playing very important matches. It's the UEFA U21s, and Germany and England are on the docket, along with Czechia.
Czechia and Slovakia. He's got 4 games that he could potentially play in. And they're all over the place. The first game is going to be in Austria, and the next 2 are in Nitra, Slovakia. The third one is in Strida, Slovakia. And if they advance, then they've got quarterfinal games on the 21st or 22nd, semifinals on the 25th, and the final is June 28th. And let's see how far Slovenia can go with Micha Ilinic, who's been playing, very well for New York City when he's been in there. Now, there's a couple of other players that are
Chris
around
Tao
as well.
No, we got to everybody but Chris Tao, and Chris Tao
who plays for China, who plays against Sri Lanka. And I sent it in
for Chinese Taipei, which is
you put
in the notes, and it's not in the press release. He's been selected to represent his country, said the release. Yes. Okay, that's great.
Chinese Taipei is the country.
So I mistakenly said Sri Lanka in my opening. But they're playing Sri Lanka, which so Chris Tao. Now, if you don't know who Chris Tao is, it's because he's not on the first team. He plays for NYCFC 2. And I know him very well because he played at Rutgers University. So I probably did broadcasts of at least 20 or 30 of his games over the years that he was at Rutgers on the Big Ten Network. So, Chris, I'm really happy for him because, he was the guy that, I don't think he didn't remind me of a guy that was going to really make it on the professional level. And that's no insult to him. I just see a lot of players and look at that. They bring him in and he gets better. He's a better player now than he was when he left Rutgers. And that's a credit to Matt Pilkington and also the team around him. So good for him.
And credit to him.
And credit to him for working. Hey, Etihad Park. So they keep they keep this announcing new additions, and they have first. Let's look at the Tunnel Club, which they've announced prior, but Roberto, we never have looked at this, and I love this because we've seen this in Atlanta. I believe we saw this in Nashville, where the players before the game, the pregame walk goes through the supporter section, and you can see there'll be food and drink, and this will be a place of gathering for supporters who are members of the Tunnel Club. But now the players are walking out to the field through the supporters. So I like that,
which is great.
Yeah.
I like it as well. I like it a lot.
Then they've got this other new area, West Centerline Club, and here's a picture of that. I love the AI enhancements here. This is this looks like the real thing.
This looks like it's built already. It's amazing.
So this is I would assume west of the center line or halfway line at the Etihad Park. And so more news. So every time they have an enhancement, we'll try to show you pictures and that. But
it looks great. I mean, it looks fantastic. And people, we had people on the trip again who are who have bought into the new stadium, who made the trip and to Nashville, and it was really nice. So this time it wasn't that they bought suites. Some of the guys that we spoke to had just bought like the front row tickets and the access to the club, and so the club has treated them to a trip to Nashville, which I thought was fantastic. So it's great to see these very, very dedicated fans who obviously also have means to be able to be on these trips.
Yeah, it's a good job by the club. I think this is the second or third time that they've brought supporters with them that have bought into the new stadium. So cool. New stadium. So New York City Stadium, 2027 will open. That's the schedule. Hopefully early in the spring, or if
it's ahead of schedule.
If MLS changes
schedule.
If MLS changes the schedule to the international calendar, that'll be interesting to see how that gets dealt with. But
I believe that they've already voted that they're not going to be ready for 2027. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
That
I thought it was the World Cup
table
year.
That.
Yeah.
And so, it's still going to be a February to December schedule for 2027.
Okay. Yeah, I was I remember hearing about it, but I wondered if it was the World Cup year and then trying to figure out 26, 27, 27, 28. As you know, that's not my forte. Like I still
not your forte.
I can't figure out why we're celebrating the 10th anniversary in the 11th year. So that's where
I know. But one thing that I want to say is that originally they thought that the stadium was going to be ready late March. And now, based on the schedule, and if it continues like that, it could be ready for game one of the 2027 season if they decided to play at home game one. New York City has never played a home game in week one in their history. And the reason being, they're trying to keep, fans in as good a weather as possible and lessen the chances of a harsh winter game, that you start somewhere in February. So I don't mind them playing the first two games on the road, as long as it's not like Minnesota and Toronto, something like that.
Yeah, well, they're not playing at home either, the first couple of games. Hey, but then on the to piggyback what we're talking about here, how about the Chicago Fire? So they just announced that they've got a stadium agreement, and it's going to be ready in 2028. That doesn't seem fair.
They have easier. They seem to have an easier route to get this done than New York City did, because this has been a project that has been on and off for a long time, and what they call I think it's called the Area 78.
Yeah.
But now they want to. It's going to be anchored with the stadium. They've tried different things to try to anchor it with. Nothing seemed to work out. And now the stadium, and Joe Mansueto is putting up every dime for the stadium.
Well,
every dime for the stadium, and I applaud that.
The United Soccer America on X said that $550 million in public taxes will eventually be used to offset the cost of everything. Because remember, they're doing a whole, like there's a half-mile river walk. So it's sort of like the Etihad Park arrangement where there's going to be retail and I don't think there's hotels involved with this.
No, but there's homes. There's definitely like a lot of homes that are going to be added there.
Yeah. So there's some debate, and one other article came out with I apologize, Annie, and I don't remember your last name, Annie, but I read it really quickly this morning, and I don't have it in front of me, but it indicated also that taxpayers are not. I think the headline of the article: taxpayers are not helping to pay the freight, and then it was ... yet. So I don't know. I have a friend of my wife's who's a college professor at Villanova who has written books about stadiums, all kinds of stadiums that have been built, NFL, baseball, because the promise is always how it's going to enhance the community. It's going to create jobs. It's not going to cost the taxpayers anything. And I've read the book, and it's pretty interesting how often it's said it's not going to cost you anything, and then
it does. Well, there's a lot of places where we know that it is going to cost. I mean, New York State is first because the Buffalo Bills stadium that's being built, they're using close to $900 million of New York State money that could be used for schools, for roads, for subways, for a whole bunch of things. And that's being given to the Pegulas to help build this stadium, which is outrageous.
But but it's out front, right? But it's transparent. Everybody knows it, right?
Well, they announced it basically as something else. You know what you say. It's an investment, but we're going to get it back with all this stuff.
Right.
No, it's a giveaway to a billionaire family. It's absolutely unnecessary. If the Buffalo Bills want to build their own stadium, let them build their own bloody stadium. I mean, I can see where you want to be able to help maybe with roads and a little infrastructure and things, but let them pay the damn freight on the stadium. The New York State isn't going to get anything out of it.
Well, anyway,
that means us.
But Joe Mansueto,
by the way, like you're paying the freight for MetLife.
Joe Mansueto should be applauded. He's only had the team since 2018, and he's been constantly trying to spend the money, upgrade, get the right coaching staff in, and with Berhalter and company, who's not only the coach, but he's also the GM or whatever his title is, director of soccer, whatever. Yeah. And but he's running the show, and he's got a good guy doing that, I think. And I think and they have a training facility now that's very that the players are really excited about. So I think it's so back-to-back years. MLS has to be thrilled. Back-to-back years, two of their big markets are going to have soccer-specific stadiums when they never have. Well, I don't want to say they never have before because Chicago was out of the city and had one, but nobody seemed to like that one.
It's a shame because that's a lovely stadium too. Not only that, but now the Stars, formerly known as the Red Stars, are looking to possibly moving out of SeatGeek Stadium. They're doing a test run with a college stadium, but it's really small. I mean, I saw the pictures. If that thing holds 3,000 people, it seems to be a lot. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about how many.
Where in the city? In the city?
In Chicago, yeah, in Chicago. It just looks really, really small. And, you're hoping that they get better and better, attendance and more people go. But, you're not going to do that when you downgrade from a 20,000 seat stadium to something that holds somewhere around 3,000 or 5,000,
I'm looking at some of the comments here. So we've got some good stuff chiming in. Now I'm going to ask for comments about. So Roberto, I'm going to do something personal here, but I think you'll enjoy this little story before we get to kicking it around. So there's friends of my wife and I. They're called the World Wine Guys. They are experts. People in this that are listening and watching now maybe have seen them on the Today Show or the local, the Channel 11, Channel 5 Fox, because they come on and they talk about what foods go with what wines. They've written books. They're really incredible guys. Mary, my wife, went to kindergarten and has known this guy Jeff Jensen for all that time. Well, I was out at a little picnic recently with some of her high school friends, and I was talking to him, and it was like I was telling him about the passion. I had gotten back from Napoli. I was just talking about all the passion, and he said, we do lectures on cruises. You should do you should come up with a soccer proposal, and we'll give it to our agent who I guess gets them on these cruises. And I was like, wow, that would be pretty cool. I've never been on a cruise, Roberto. My wife has always wanted to go on a cruise. She's been on a couple, but she would love to go. And so I have this cruise idea. So here's my idea. I want to know what you think of it. And if people are listening or watching and they have idea, because I want you to imagine that you're on a boat. You've been drinking since 9 a.m. and at 2 p.m. is my soccer lecture or whatever. Isn't that what you do on cruises? You just sit around and drink, don't you?
Well, I'm not a heavy drinker. I'm like a 1 or 2 glass of wine drinker, and that's pretty much it.
The people don't have to be inebriated, but I'm wondering what kinds of things from a soccer lecture standpoint you'd be interested in. So what I've come up with so far is rivalries, because to me, rivalries. So I like the Old Firm is my favorite, Celtic Rangers, because it's also political. It's Protestants against the Catholics. And there's a massive history. They've played each other since 1888. So I've already done research and handed in like a 1-pager about this as far as a proposal.
So you're going to talk about Scottish wine?
No, it's not wine. I'm doing soccer. They do the wine. I do the soccer. Now,
but I thought you were going to relate it back to wine.
No, it's not. It doesn't have to be related to wine. The suggestion was do a soccer lecture. And I said, okay, let me think.
Okay.
I could include wine at some point. I mean, because wine in certain regions, obviously, wine and food.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to do. Have a.
Well, there's a good idea. There's an idea.
For instance, in Oregon, like Oregon Pinot Noir against Washington State Pinot Noir.
That's good.
And how you can relate that to soccer.
See, these are the kinds of ideas I'm looking for. It's very good, Roberto. That's interesting.
Very much.
It's very interesting. But now I'm looking. So the other one I was Ariel gave me. Look, Argentina. Everybody knows River Boca, but that doesn't mean people on this boat will. But Ariel suggested Rosario Central, Newell's Old Boys. That it's a more heated, hated, packed full of stuff. So I've looked into that, and it's, oh my God, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Manchester Derby. You can go to the Basque region. Of course, you've got Madrid and Barcelona, but you can go to the Basque region, and there's some crazy stuff going on there. So, so I wonder what people think of. Would you sit and listen to the rivalry lecture? And I'll have photos and I'll have video, anything that I'm legally allowed to show. So they have this this media that I can use, I guess.
And then I think you should talk about when you do these things, what's the best wine in those regions?
Okay.
So like in Argentina, especially in the Mendoza region, they've got great Malbecs.
Now, especially if the wine guys are on the cruise with me, because that would be the best. That would be yeah. And then maybe set up some of the bottles of wine in the back so people could taste test on their way out of the lecture.
Exactly. That's 100% yes. Yes. If it's a wine cruise, you've got it related to.
Well, it's not a wine cruise. It's a cruise, and these guys are hired to come on and do like a wine lecture. I guess when you go on a cruise.
Oh, I thought it was just a wine cruise.
No,
per se,
it's just like,
I think that would be great, and you have different people talking about wines, but then you can relate it to soccer and
if it was a wine
wines in different regions. I think that would be good.
No, it's a cruise.
I might even go.
I've never been on a cruise, but apparently there's like activities every second of the day. You can go into this room and see this. You got music here. You got the buffet here. I guess you can eat and drink all you want. And so apparently this one cruise line, I don't know which line it is, they have these different lectures along the way on interesting topics. So anyway, enough of that. Enough about me. But if anybody's got ideas out there, let's see comments. Let's see if anybody's got anything. You're still talking about MLS? Come on, man.
No, they got Quinny's got a whole bunch of stuff here about
what does he got?
that everybody, like in the Derby, it says everybody drinks Buckfast, whatever that is. Buckfast wine. I've never heard of that.
I don't know what that
you can put
is.
these up, Shane, while I'm talking about them.
Wine made by Bunk?
Be up there. Thank
All right,
you.
Quinny. Good job, Quinny. Way to chime in, dude.
And then he's got another one that by Monks,
which oddly
and
makes
then Kevin
people
Rogers
angry.
chimes in on Quinny. So let's hope people don't get violent. You're supposed to get like mellow with wine, not pissed off and angry.
All right,
and be like
listen,
Glenn.
There's a lot of anger. There's
Kevin
a lot
Rogers
of anger in
has
these.
one.
There's a lot of anger in these rivalries. One thing I had forgotten about in this studying the Celtic Rangers is that a guy. So it was like in the early 20s when Rangers said no Catholics on our team, none. And they didn't have a Catholic on their team until 1989 when Mo Johnston, who had previously played for Celtic, got signed by Rangers. And so what happened at his first derby, both Celtic and Ranger supporters booed him. Both sides booed him because the Celtic supporters.
They finally got something to get them together.
Oh, my goodness. All right, let's kick it around, Roberto. All right, Roberto, you pumped for the Club World Cup? Shane, put up the groups, man. Let's see who's playing. Look at that. Well, we know that LAFC is on that list. How about that game?
That was really great. That LAFC America game was fantastic. LAFC really, especially in the second half, America was toast. And they got that tying goal. You know, something that Steve Cherundolo really hasn't done since MLS Cup, that he found a way to pull out a game against, a superior opponent. So they did very, very well in this game, especially the second half. They were the better team. And I was shocked to see. And then, of course, the next day, Vancouver, sadly crapped the bed against Cruz Azul in Mexico City.
Yeah, but in this Club World Cup, LAFC. So what group are they in? They're in with
LAFC is in Group
Flamengo
D.
And Chelsea. LAFC, Chelsea. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Then the other groups that American teams are on: Group A, Palmeiras, Porto, Al Ahly, and Inter Miami. Now, Inter Miami, they're going to be playing, I don't know how many games at Hard Rock Stadium, the home of the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. And there was a story earlier on, I think last week. They're nowhere close to selling that stadium out. And I think that there's a lot of inventory for a lot of these games. A lot of inventory. These prices are going to go down.
Well, I think that same article was talking about how the cost of the tickets are now plummeting, which is interesting. If you paid $650 for a seat, and that same seat you could get for $250, a week out from the game.
Wait.
Yeah.
Well, it happens.
Yeah.
That happens. Seattle is in a group with PSG, Atlético de Madrid, and Botafogo. I mean, you talk about a group that is like, oh my God, that is the group. I mean, some of these other groups are pretty strong. Bayern, Auckland City, Boca, and Benfica.
But you mentioned Seattle. Stick with Seattle for a second because
okay, we've got news.
This is crazy because, and then they got yelled out by their owner. But prior to their last match against Minnesota, so Seattle already had known they didn't have to play a playing game like LAFC. The Sounders in that group that Roberto just gave you, the players came out and they were wearing this T-shirt. It says, well, let's show the close-up now, Shane. Club World Cash Grab. Because first of all, there's $1 billion that is being injected into this 32-team tournament. Every team that qualifies gets $10 million. That's $320 million right off the bat. And then you've got this extra, $680 million that's going to be distributed. I don't know how they're distributing it, from winner to semifinals to quarterfinals, how that's all happening. But I would imagine the more games you win, the more money you're going to collect. And the Seattle Sounders players feel like they should, and the MLSPA, Roberto, the Players Association, put out a supporting letter saying, we support the Seattle players. Adrian Hanauer, the Seattle owner, did not.
Yeah, did not.
Angrily confronting players in the locker room after the match. That's what was reported. I think it was Jeremiah Osaya. Is that his name? The guy from Seattle. And he was the first to report that. But I'm just picturing the owner barging in after the game. And they lost the game 2-1. So he could be doubly pissed off. You know?
I can imagine that influenced some of that. He might have been angry, and then they went out and didn't win at home. And that didn't play very, very well. I wonder how that's all going to be resolved, because obviously the players are saying, hey, you're getting all this money, share some or share more. It's not like they're not sharing any of these, but share more. And, I understand, if they're going to be playing, it's all these extra games and everything. I mean, these players, I get it. We all want to see these tournaments, and we all want to see, especially international tournaments. But there's got to be a point where players need their rest. The amount of games that you're playing now versus 20 years ago is just insanity. I mean, how much can you squeeze out of these players? Because FIFA wants to have all these events because they make money off of that. By the way, FIFA is a nonprofit organization. I just thought you should know that. And then you have UEFA wants to play games, obviously CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, all the federations, because the more games that they get to play, more chance for them to be able to make any money. And it's just crazy. And you're doing this off the backs of, all these players. And then you wonder why everybody's getting injured.
Yeah, it's what I think from a sporting standpoint, not just the fatigue of the players, which is a massive consideration, but it takes away from the special portion of games, there's so many games, like even El Clasico, Barcelona, Madrid, they play so many times against each other. It just takes away the aura, of, it's El Clasico. All right, well, it's the 20th time they've played this year. So, I'm not getting too excited about this. So yeah, it's too much. And I think it's too much because of that too. It takes away from the thrill sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's impossible.
Sometimes it's good to anticipate something and not have it all the time.
Yeah.
There can be too much of a good thing.
Now, MetLife Stadium, I'm going to just quickly go through. So for those who are listening locally, and watching, now, first of all, Roberto, Porto is training right over here at Rutgers University. So this is good. They have an Argentine manager. I don't know much about him, Martin Anselmi. So we'll see if I'm hoping to get a chance to go over for a few sessions. We'll see if that actually comes about. But you've got Palmeiras, Porto, June 15th, Fluminense, Borussia Dortmund comes in on the 17th. So that's a Gio Reyna time. We'll see. And then hosting the one of the quarterfinals, both semifinals, and the final, which will be played the day after New York City is in Charlotte. So here we go.
Here we go. And with everything going on, somehow my registration with FIFA got lost or suspended or something happened. And it looks like I'm not getting credentials to this thing. So I'm going to have to depend upon you.
Well, I'm covering for the quarterfinal, semis, and final. I'm doing some stuff for Sirius XM. The other, I'm just going to go to those games. I don't think I'm going to do any work at those games. I hope they don't hear this.
Well, you're doing work, and you are doing work because you're gaining knowledge that you're going to bring onto the show.
Well, thank you.
And you have an opportunity to talk. You're going to have an opportunity to talk to to players and coaches about these things. And yes, that is absolutely working.
Okay,
thank you. Absolutely working.
Yeah, you cover for me.
There's a difference between being there and not being there. You're going to have a great advantage over me unless somehow I can pull a miracle with people that I know, but we'll see.
Remember Julian Alvarez, the double hit penalty, the double kick penalty, which he hit it twice and then it didn't count. Well, there's a rule change now. He wasn't permitted to take it again. It was just I think it became a goal kick. There's an actual rule change. FIFA and IFAB that if it happens anytime in the future, that you can retake the kick. So,
Wow.
Now,
How
unless
much
you're doing
more of an advantage are you giving offensive players?
no, well, it's if you slip or something, not if you do it on, not if you purposely try to double kick and deceive the goalkeeper. It's like,
No,
he
I know,
wiped
but
out.
still,
He
even
wiped out.
even if you do that,
Well, anyway,
even if you do that,
from now on, you can.
I don't know.
you have
I
that.
don't know about that.
Michael Bradley joining Jesse Marsh. We got a couple of Americans now on the Canadian side. The Canadian men, Bradley currently pursuing his UEFA A, I have learned. So he's taking this seriously. And
100%, he should. He's a bright kid. He was no longer a kid. He's a bright man.
he was assisting Bob, his father, at Staubeck, but then they got released from there. And I hear they may be just kind of living over in Chatham, New Jersey. I'm not sure, somewhere in that vicinity. I haven't talked to Bob in a long time.
If Bruce Springsteen is in concert someplace, you'll run into him.
Okay,
I guarantee that.
my poor son, he lives in Asbury, and Springsteen, he pops up all over the place, and he's just never been in the at the ice cream store or this restaurant, that bar. He's always around. That's what I like about Springsteen, man. He's a man about the people.
Good. I love Springsteen.
All right, I'm going to close.
Never an issue with me.
I'm going to close with something that's near and dear to your heart, Roberto.
We have one more thing that we haven't discussed.
What's that?
We have to relate it back to New York City FC. But go first, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, no, I'm going to talk about another sport, so you go first.
Okay. How is Matt Freese not top 5 in the All-Star voting? How is that happening? What is it with New York City fans that aren't voting enough in this that Matt Freese can't get into the top 5 when he's having another lights-out season?
I do not care. I don't care about All-Star team.
I care about
All-Star
because
team.
I think he deserves it.
I don't care. He deserves. He's been called up by Mauricio Pochettino to the U.S. men's national team. This all-star crap doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, and I will say this about it, if Freese gets a bonus in his contract for making the all-star game, then
a lot of players do.
Then I would say
I haven't seen the particulars of his contract, but normally players get bonuses for being in the all-star game and winning championships and doing all of that. Come on, New York City fans, get out there and start voting because he deserves it. It's not just because you're a fan. It's because the guy absolutely deserves it. He's been playing lights out for you. Do the guy a favor. Get him into the all-star game. Go and vote.
Who are the keepers? And I'll give you my analysis too. Freese is one of the best keepers.
I have it on me right now.
All right. Well, it's going to be Zach Steffen. It's going to be Patrick Schulte. It's going to be Kalina for North Carolina for Charlotte. It's going to be it could be Galese because Galese's having a light.
Yeah, he was leading. Galese was leading.
Well, he's having a good year. You can't deny that.
Okay, so here they are. Okay, right. Number 1, Pedro Galese. Number 2, Dane St. Clair. Number 3, Yohei Takuaka. Number 4, Martin Paz. And number 5, Carlos Coronel. Those are your 5 goalkeepers. I got the other 5 for everything else if you'd like, but
no,
those are your top 5.
Well, yeah, that you in some ways you could tell that's a fan vote. Carlos Coronel.
Yes,
come on,
of course it's a fan vote.
Well,
and I mean, come on, he's got to be top 2, top 3. He's got to be there.
Okay. I only care if Matt Freese gets a bonus. Otherwise, I don't care.
He probably gets a bonus.
All right. I'll care then.
Probably.
Now, what the hell is going on with the New York Knicks? How do you fire Tom? This is the part that I want to conclude with because this is your bailiwick. The NBA Finals, we got Indiana, Oklahoma. But we don't have the Knicks because they got eliminated by Indiana. Rightly so. Indiana was a better team, I think, overall in the series. I don't think you'll dispute that, Roberto. Thibodeau, here's what he did. He surpassed Pat Riley to rank 4th on the franchise list in victories. He hasn't been there that long. He led the Knicks to back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since 1995, which I believe is Riley. He'd been by far the club's most successful coach over the past 2+ decades, signed a 3-year extension with the team, has gradually every year taken them another step of the playoffs. This year getting to the conference finals for the first time since frickin' the Ice Age. And now they owe him $30 million after firing him. So Roberto, I actually was listening to Howard Stern, and he had, oh God, what's his name? Who's the guy? Loudmouth, but he's intelligent and he talks about the game a lot.
Mad Dog Russo?
No, the other one. That's the white guy. Who's the black dude? I can't believe it. Stuart, no, Sam Smith. What's his name?
No, Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith. Yeah, it is Smith. All right. So Stephen A. Smith, he was really he really gave a good answer to this. And his answer, and I wonder what you think, is that James Dolan and now whoever this guy Rose is, the GM.
Leon Rose
do not, and he said Leon Rose has done a spectacular job, but they don't ever explain anything they ever do. They hate the media and they don't explain. That was his.
They very rarely speak to media. Very rarely speak to media. Dolan almost never wants to. And the reason being is that when he used to speak to, and he used to do things that just were crazy, and he was part of the downfall because of his impulses of the Knicks. Nothing. And until they got Leon Rose in there, and he started straightening everything out. So I want to give you my take on this as somebody who follows the Knicks and follows them pretty closely. And, you know, a long time ago, for 20 years, I was, doing play-by-play in color for them from 1994 to 2015. I think that they believe that Tom Thibodeau can just take them so far. That although they gave him a 3-year extension earlier this year, they feel that the Knicks just can't get past this sort of level because there's a certain level of stubbornness that he has about the way he uses his bench and how he plays his teams. The issue is, and the main issue is, that Thibodeau is a defensive specialist. He is a guy who lives and breathes defense. And Indiana ran all over New York, ran over the New York Knicks. In only a couple of games, they could find a way to be able to stop them and slow them down.
Yeah, Leon Rose
was supposed to be his specialty.
But they need a couple of more athletic players. I don't know. I don't follow it closely enough, but I watch some of these games.
Well, they
need more athletes. They need more athletes to compete with Indiana, not basketball players.
But they felt, based on what I've read, that the feeling was that the Knicks have a team that can play in a different style and a quicker style, and it would be better for them, and that they didn't do that. And instead of believing that they could change the way the Knicks would play under Thibodeau, that this is basically their ceiling with him, and therefore they feel that they need to get somebody else.
Roberto, I was going to interrupt you earlier, but you said something right off the top, which completely, to me, backfires everything you just said, because they signed him to a 3-year extension not long ago. So you mean they haven't figured out how he coaches, how he does substitutions, how he's going to play in the big games? Come on, man.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Glenn. And I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Freaking incompetent. Why they did that, and then they don't explain it. How do you not explain firing the guy that's elevated you every year since he got there? I don't know Thibodeau. I'm not sitting here. I don't know his family. I know he's going to get $30 million for doing nothing. And he is 67 years old. Is he too old? I don't know. Are they looking at that?
Right now, he's the oldest. Well, he was until he got fired. He was the oldest coach in the NBA.
So what?
I'm just putting it out there.
Hey, we're right there. We're right there with him. We're right there with him. Age discrimination.
I know.
Come on, man.
But they feel that with the team that they had, that they didn't get as much out of everybody, especially Karl Anthony Towns, as they should have. I guess they expected the team to play differently with Karl Anthony Towns than they wound up playing, and therefore they felt that this was the best. I'm like half and half on this because I love Tibbs. I love Tibbs. I love the way that the Knicks played. But also, I also got the feeling, especially after they lost that first game. I mean, you blew a 20-point lead with 2 minutes to go.
That's BS too. They came back from 20 down to beat the Celtics twice.
Three times. They did that 3 times.
So that's BS. I've heard all about this game. I've heard all about this game one. I've heard all about this game one. The Boston Celtics are the defending NBA champions. They're probably the best team in the NBA.
No, they're not the best team in the NBA. They're defending champions. The best team in the NBA is clearly Oklahoma City. The best team in the NBA is clearly Oklahoma City.
This Indiana game one, it's a lame argument because
I don't
earlier.
find that to be a lame argument because that changed the series. The Knicks win that, then they have a good chance. Even if they lose game 2, because of the way that they had played on the road, that they still had a very good chance to win the series. But once you lost that game and then you lost the second game, and they left out of New York 0-2. It was an uphill climb that was virtually almost impossible to be able to come back from.
Oh, come on. You sound like you're talking in rote terms as a commentator.
I'm not, Glenn. History tells you this. Those who don't learn from history tend to repeat it.
Forget it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. The freaking guy beat the Celtics 3 times when he was down by 20, and then he loses the first game and a 14-point. I recognize everything. It was like 14. What was a 9? Less than a minute left, and they led by 14, and they lose the freaking game. Or they led by 9 with less than a minute, and they lose the game. I get it. But come on, man, you're gonna blame the coach for that after he got you there?
I'm not saying
if
that
they didn't get past the
blame
Celtics
on this. I think that the players obviously. The players are to blame as well. Right. Look, he was loved in the locker room. Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, especially, were there batting for him every single time. Right. And despite the fact that that they played a gazillion minutes, and all the media was like, "Oh, they're playing too many minutes," and they never complained about anything. Never. If it was private, it was internal. Externally, they were 100% behind Tibbs. And I love Tibbs. I love him. I think he's a great coach. I wouldn't have fired him, but obviously they feel something. And they're talking to the players right after, and they did exit interviews with all the players, and there are certain players who they valued their opinions more.
That's why they have to explain it.
They decided to move.
If I spend $1 million a year on these stupid season tickets at the Garden, they're so overpriced, these tickets. I need an explanation as to why my coach was fired. And plus, I'm a coach's guy. And
by the way, I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I want an explanation too. I want you to go and face the media and explain why you thought he was responsible and nobody else, right? Or majorly responsible and for what happened. And then how do you go and what are you going to do to fix this?
Yeah, because when Howard Stern was interviewing Stephen Smith, I'm thinking, and Howard never asked a question, I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe there was something untoward that Thibodeau did along the way that, they're just trying to keep quiet and they're just kind of quietly eliminate him. But
that would be shocking. It's definitely not something that is in.
I agree. But
Thibodeau, Tom Thibodeau.
That's why you got to come out.
It was really disappointing to see the Knicks lose.
All right.
You and I were on a plane back from Nashville. I'm grateful for the fact that we didn't have Wi-Fi on the plane, and that when we finally got reception as we were landing, I saw that the game was out of hand, and I didn't have to suffer through that game as a fan because it would have been horrific to do that.
All right, man. Well, let's close this one out. International break. We do have a game against Atlanta on Thursday, June 12th. So I suspect the next time we do this will be next Tuesday because that'll be match day -2.
I'm flying back next Tuesday. It's going to be impossible for me to do it that day.
I'll just have to fly
Wednesday if you'd like. The day before.
Oh, I'm golfing with some of my high school friends, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that.
I don't think it would be very nice for me to find a way to be able to do the show on a plane because I think people sitting in and around me might be pissed.
All right, we'll figure it out. All right. So Have a nice trip, Roberto. We'll talk before you fly back, probably. But anyway, enjoy yourself. Enjoy that little beachy area. You got your son there. This is beautiful. And thanks for everybody for joining us and all the different comments we got along the way.
Absolutely.
I'm a little disappointed. Other than Quinny, I really got no suggestions about my cruise lecture. But maybe
what is it, guys? We're still reading you, so send them in. Send them in on Twitter to Glenn.
All right. Thanks, man. All right, for Roberto, I'm Glenn. Thanks, Shane. See y'all.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.